And welcome back to the Open Mic Broadcast Network. And after further review with Coach Northern, our football expert here from the Open Mic Broadcast Network. Coach, how you doing today, sir?
Oh, everything going pretty good. Had a chance to go up and call the game Saturday, Southern versus Prairie View. It ended up being a great game from a fan standpoint. Not so good for the Panthers. It was good for me to get a chance to see a few people that I either grew up with or knew from playing at Southern. So it was good from that standpoint. But I thought it was an excellent game in terms of the excitement of the game. The play at times, I think between the play and the officiating, in my opinion, may have left a lot to be desired in terms of the execution and then the mechanics of the officials at times. I thought made the game turn for one team or the other, as well as just the mechanics of how they were moving, some of the calls. I just thought that it wasn't a good look for a game that was on TV as well.
Well, Coach, I saw this game a tale of two halves. The first half, I didn't think it can get no worse than what Southern was getting with penalties, and Prairie was controlling the ball. And then on the second half, it was reverse roles. Prairie with all penalties, and Southern took control. And I'm saying this, you were there, you may see it differently. I felt like if ever there was a game that was given away, Prairie gave that game away Saturday.
Well, I think the thing that sort of caught me by surprise when Prairie View scored that touchdown going in before the half on the long passing play, I thought, well, they pretty much have all the momentum. Unfortunately, when Southern came back out after halftime, they drove down and immediately took that momentum of score right before the half. They took that momentum away. And then they got their ground game going a little bit. And then Prairie View's, their ground game wasn't getting much at all. And then you compound that with, like, say, a few penalties here and there. Southern's crowd, even though it wasn't a typical Southern crowd, started getting involved, especially when Southern was on defense. And their defense picked it up. They didn't get the interceptions or the turnovers that you look for out of your defense, but they kept Prairie View from, pretty much advancing until Prairie View scored the long touchdown pass. But it was some good defense, and I think both defenses played well, in my opinion, for the most part, because they stuffed each other's running game, and then unfortunately for Prairie View, they didn't get the stuff when they needed to, in particular, that first drive of the second half, and then in overtime. Southern was able to score on the very first play of overtime on a running play where they missed. I think I counted 5 missed tackles on that one play.
Coach, I'm going to ask this question, and if you can, remove your blue and gold glasses, purple and gold glasses, remove your red and black glasses, your swag glasses, right?
Yes, sir.
On a scale of 1 to 10 of execution, flow of the game. It was exciting to me, negative reasons. But how do you rate the gameplay, the cleanliness of this game that was played?
Like I say, it wasn't clean by any measure. If you want to talk, Prairie View's coaches and players probably have a lot to. If I had to give it a number, I would say probably 4 or 5. But because both teams played at a 4 or 5 level at times, it led to excitement. And then when you add the 4 or 5 or the 2 or 3 of the referees to it, that's a whole different ball game. But like I say, you look at it like, is it a defensive struggle? So I looked at the first half, it's like it was a defensive struggle. Both teams came in trying to establish the running game. And from a coach's standpoint, I think that was a good decision because if you look at it, Prairie View's quarterback has thrown, I want to say, 4 or 5 pick sixes. I'm not just talking about interceptions. He's thrown 4 or 5 pick sixes. So that's going to make you lean on the running game. Southern's quarterback I want to say he has thrown 2 pick sixes, and then against the Jackson State game, his first game back being the starter, he threw 2 interceptions, even though they were not pick sixes. So that will lead you to say, okay, we're going to try to run the ball, punt, no problem with throwing the ball, despite the arm that Biden has, despite the scrambling ability that Peters has, you still going to lean on the running game. And for Prairie View, my opinion, I would have thought I would have saw more design running plays for Peters, but at the same time, you can't design a whole lot of running plays for your quarterback with now your third string quarterback is technically your backup. So that's one thing to think about. Biden is not athletic enough for you to, in my opinion, to have design running plays for unless you know that he is going to be one-on-one with the defensive end, because he's not going to outrun most linebackers. He can outrun some defensive ends. So that's why I think the game looked like that. But both defenses look like we know exactly what we're going to get from both offenses because of the quarterbacks. And both, like I say, you got to think both head coaches have a defensive background, so they don't want to turn the ball over. And primarily, you don't want to give up pick sixes. So I see why the game went the way it did, especially the first half.
Coach, what do both of these teams need to do to build any type of successful floor plan of having success in the Western, let alone the SWAC championship? What do you see each team need to really work on, and where they okay at?
Well, I think both teams going to have to lean on their defenses because of how turnover-prone the quarterbacks can be at times. So if you're leaning on your defense, if you can establish the running game, I think that's the way they're going to have to. They're going to have to turn back the clock in terms of we're not going to be the typical SWAC up and down the field, 30 to 35 points a game. We're going to be a low 20 game is fine with us, and we're not going to give up big plays on defense. We're going to turn the ball over, make the other team turn the ball over, and we're going to be solid in the special teams. And for us kicking, and both teams have, I would say, decent punters, but better than average kickers when you talk about the kickoffs and the field goal game.
Okay. Well, both teams are moving forward. Prairie View season, if you look at it from historical lenses, it's on life preserve right now coming out to the State Fair Classic. They lose this game this weekend, postseason play is out the window.
Yes, and as a coach, you hate to say it, but you become the spoiler. You can mess up somebody else's, homecoming, them going to the SWAC championship game, different things like that. And as a player, I would, when I would get asked about it playing at Southern, about being a spoiler, being a spoiler is something that, in my opinion, quote unquote losers say, or people that have a losing attitude. We're gonna mess this up for somebody else, but sometimes that's all you can do is play your best, because you still gonna get your film still gonna get evaluated by the NFL scouts. You still gonna get evaluated to see if your scholarship gonna be renewed. And then if you think about transferring up or down or wherever, the school that you're going to is still gonna want to see film. Or let me see some of your plays at Prairie View if you whatever position you play. But it's still gonna be something to play for. But at the end of the day, you're gonna be out of the role of possibly going to the SWAC championship and the Celebration Bowl, which was a big goal of theirs. Every team, that's your goal starting training camp, no matter where you at in the conference, because everybody thinks if we play well, we can get to where we want to be.
And let's ask this question, the control of that locker room, the mentality of that locker room right now. What do you tell your team at this stage? I know you just said, you still got a lot to play for, but these young men are very social conscious now. They see the tweets, the social media, the highlights and shows like this, where, and I know it's probably hard for you to figure, but this is the mental toughness right now of seeing this thing through. As a coach, what are you looking for, and how can you determine if you didn't lost your guys?
Well, I have this thing on one of my playbooks. It says you can lose a game, but you can't lose the locker room. And also, I'm not sure if you remember, it was an old coach, Doug Porter, who was longtime coach at Grambling, black college football Hall of Famer. And he came back to Grambling after he retired. And he would come by a lot, especially on Mondays or especially after a loss. And he would tell the coaches, look, man, they going to follow your lead. So if you go out there acting like the world is over or acting like you mad at them for one play or whatever, they're going to take that and process it totally different. And he said, you have to keep coaching. And he would pretty much say, you can say whatever you want to a young man, however you want to say it, but make sure after you finish talking to him, you put your arm around him. Or while you telling him how bad of a player he is, make sure you have an arm around him. Make sure you walk off the field with him. And then sometimes he would tell us, tell such and such to come out of the office and see you before he leaves the players' parking lot, the way we were set up at Grambling. And like, hey, man, I want to let you know I'm in your corner. And I had to say, and I would always tell guys, you're better than that. So if you had a bad game, I always told kids you better than that. And if I didn't think you were better than that, I wouldn't tell you. So that's the biggest thing. You have to keep encouraging and telling guys that let's put something good on tape. It's not the end of the world. We still got to play football. That's what you signed up for.
Meanwhile, Grambling is coming into this week game motivated, coming off a very convincing win over Jackson State. They're singing a whole different tune right about now.
And the thing about it is, you could almost say, and I could be real sarcastic and say, look, man, Prairie View got Grambling right where they want them in terms of mentality, because nobody in Grambling, Louisiana is talking about little old Prairie View. They still talking about the beatdown that they put on Jackson State and how well their defense contained Jackson State after Jackson just beat Southern. So everybody in Grambling thinking they always in the SWAC championship game already. I know the coach is not saying that, but you got to think those guys go to school with 18 or 21-year-old people, and then the adults that are around there, they just patting them on the back, talking about how good they are, not what they could be. So Prairie View coming in after a loss to Southern, who just got beat down, like you say, by Jackson State, they got everything in front of them because Grambling is going to be looking past them to, oh, we good now. So it's almost like I was telling somebody, letting somebody score on the first play of the game, you got it right where you want them because they think it's going to be easy. So the key to it for Prairie View is going to be go into the game, get some momentum early, and then make Grambling have to play some catch-up ball. And like I say, Prairie View don't have anything to lose, so you may see a few more down-the-field shots. With Grambling plays they do a lot of zone blitzing more than man-to-man blitzing. But in some of their alignments, they leave some things, I say, that Prairie View can take advantage of on the offensive side of the ball.
Okay. Meanwhile, another intriguing matchup that I'm looking forward to this week is Texas Southern will be hosting Jackson State. I think Texas Southern has improved. We'll see when they meet up again. They beat Prairie View, of course, then gave up that game last week to Lamar, in my opinion, and got beat pretty convincingly by Rice. What are you seeing with this matchup coming up?
Man, the thing I told somebody, Texas Southern can win this game. And I'm going to tell the people next time I see somebody from Texas Southern, every time I pick them, they let me down. But I think they can, and I picked them to beat Jackson State for the simple fact that Texas Southern does not turn the ball over a lot. Jackson State gave up a pick six, so the quarterback threw an interception, Grambling ran it back for a touchdown. and they had a miscommunication on the snap. They had a bad snap. Quarterback tried to make a play, and Grambling picked it up for a scoop and scored a touchdown. So Jackson State still, I'm not going to say it's a quarterback controversy, but they're going back and forth between quarterbacks. So they don't know who they resting their hat on, whereas Texas Southern starter is out, and they know who they going to rest their hat on. But they didn't pass the ball much. Texas Southern controlled the Lamar game until about 5 minutes left in the game. They had everything that they wanted, but they had about 10. I think they had 12 penalties. Lamar may have had 10. So both teams were double digits. But at the end of the day, I think if Texas Southern takes care of the football, they have a good kicker, they have a good punter, as well as a good field goal kicker. That's why I say Texas Southern can win this ball game over Jackson State, because they take care of the ball better, because they know they're going to lean on the running game.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, a couple more interesting games to me, and believe it or not, I'm almost at a pick 'em with Alcorn, Mississippi Valley this weekend. I'm a little disappointed in what Alcorn showed out this past weekend, and then Valley, you just never know what you're going to get. You know what you're going to get from his history, but it's like, will this be the week that they kind of break through? And how do you see that matchup?
I see that one being the same way. Both teams up and down with offense, not really good plays at quarterback, not really good running games, but it's one of those quote-unquote rival games. You think both of them in the state of Mississippi. I'm not sure where this game is being played.
It's actually going to be at Mississippi Valley.
So, like I say, that's another. And Valley is a tougher place to play than you think, because of the surroundings with the music, and it's not going to be a lot of people there, and it's just different. The grass is a little bit. They have long grass.
Well, they got new grass now, Coach.
Oh yeah. Oh man, I'm sorry, Valley. I'm doing like my son. I'm tapping my chest. My bad, Valley. God dog. Hey, but you know what? I really thought there was a home field advantage for Valley, having an ant piles on the field and stuff like that. But
hey,
look,
man, they say they want to beautify their campus ground.
You know what? And it's not like I say, I'm a country boy at heart. It's not a bad campus. It's just out there, and like I say, when you get to the stadium, it's just a dip. You like say, you don't hear the rap music like you hear the blues, and you might hear some gospel in the background. So it's a different environment. The locker rooms is totally different. It's just like a open room, almost like an auto mechanic, where it's just open space in there with lockers and maybe 2 toilets and 4 showers. It's not the most conducive place to have your team if you're a coach. I don't even think they had a coach's locker room, if I'm not mistaken, in there. But
that's home field advantage, Coach.
That is, and that is. I tell you what, it definitely is, because you thinking about everything else except, man, I got to go out here and play football. But the new turf, I think. But at the end of the day, you don't know what you're going to get out of either one of those teams if you're that quarterback coach. You know what you can get, but what you actually going to get is a totally different ball game.
Right. And the other game of interest to me is Alabama State will be taking on Bethune-Cookman, I believe. And I believe this is going to be a statement game for Alabama State.
It's going to have to be, because now you're going to see how good your defense is against other, I say, FCS competition, because Bethune put up some points, and they were playing against a Division II. Clark Atlanta gave up a big lead, and a game like that can have some carryover effect for a Bethune-Cookman ball club. But like I say, Alabama State have defense will travel. That defense can travel anywhere. It don't matter. They might be playing on the back end of a hurricane, some bad weather coming through there. But at the end of the day, I think Alabama State defense going to take them to where they need to be.
All right, we're talking with Coach Coach Northern on After Further Review. And, Coach, we're SWAC-motivated men, but I want to get your opinion. Pac-12 been making some moves of recently. Do you think it's too little, too late, and does anybody really care?
Well, like you say, it's going to be the reconfigured Pac-12, and I don't think those numbers even matter. But, they're trying to keep it, I think, for keep the name of the conference for TV purposes and branding purposes instead of creating a new conference. So that's what that's all about. Just like I say, people recognize Pac-12, but when you see the Pac-12 and some of those teams that's going to be in it, you know, the people my age and your age a little bit going to be like, that's not the Pac-12 that I know. So
right. They won't have that staying. And to be honest with you, the old Pac-12 didn't have much staying power for me. That brand of ball never caught my attention.
Yeah, and I think part of it is the type of kids that they were getting, because a lot of people, at one time, a lot of people from the South would go out west and play. And then or they would go up north and play. But now that the SEC and the quote-unquote, the Big 12 has started dipping into the down south recruiting, kids don't have to go way out there to get games on TV. They can pretty much stop at Texas and go up north to the Ohios and Michigans if they want. They don't have to go way out there. And the like I say, them West Coast kids just a little bit different. You can find you some studs out there, but they blood pressure don't get raised much out there.
Now you're gonna have to go a little deep in the woods. Cause what you mean they blood pressure don't raise that much, man?
Like nothing gets them going unless they want to get going. And that was something like even when I was at Grambling, Prairie View, Texas Southern, the California kids. That's because the California JUCOs, they play a decent brand of ball, but they don't get going like a joker from Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Florida. The Florida kid, the California West Coast kids, they gonna go when they want to go, and that's why I say they blood pressure don't get raised. You can fuss at them, yell at them, dang it, kick them in the butt, pat them on the back, stab them in the back. They gonna be the same person. Oh, coach, you know they turn country. Oh, coach, it's gonna be all right. I'm like, hold up, man. Don't tell me my blood pressure. I'm about to blow a gasket. Don't tell me it's gonna be all right, or don't tell me to calm down. Like I'm gonna calm the F down when I need to. You don't tell me to calm down. So it's like them dudes, they different dudes, man. That's all.
You remind me, Coach Tankersley had given us one of the most inspirational messages you could ever get, man. And I won't call the brother's name out, but he's from California.
Mm-hmm.
He said, man, Coach really laid something on my mind today, man. He said, that was some real stuff, he said. I'm about to smoke me a hooter.
Mm-hmm.
Take me a shower and think about what Coach said.
Yeah. Nah. Hey, but you think about it. Just think if you're talking to, just say your wife, for example, and a lot of guys can understand this. If your wife is talking to you in an animated voice and you tell her to calm down, that's like the worst thing that can be said to a woman. So, like I say, just imagine you coaching and a player tells you to calm down or it's going to be okay. So, like I say, that's why I'm saying they different out there.
Well, look, imagine my wife who's a Cowboys fan. Boy, you talking about entertainment. Yeah, so it's different. And Coach, I think now one of the prerequisites to coach today, any sport, but in particular football, I believe coach is going to have at least a minor in psychology or something.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm seeing that more. So it's almost, you're seeing almost more marketing people get into the coaching side of stuff, but you're also seeing that a lot of schools have sports psychologists. I was watching a game the other day. I think it was North Carolina State was playing somebody, and I see this guy get off the bus, and I'm saying there's no way that guy is a football coach. Well, later on in the game, they showed him on the sideline, and he was like the breathing therapist, like the meditational guy. So you see a lot of teams having a sports psychologist. A lot of teams are getting more on the mental side of sports. Even Southern had a sports psychologist that traveled with the football team for a few years, especially when Coach Odoms was there. She passed away a couple of years ago, and that really threw, I think, their program for a loop at the same time. But they doing more yoga and stuff during the off season. Then they build in during the off season. We did this at Prairie View, where we had during the summer we would have a therapist come and talk to the team. Now his background was mostly dealing with kids, people with substance abuse issues, but you had somebody that you could talk to, and every now and then I would go in there and sit with the guys. I would have the coaches on the staff to go and sit in there, and like you can see what these kids that you bringing in, some of the things that once they get on campus, what are they going through? But that psychologist side of being a coach is definitely getting bigger and bigger.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And as we try to, as I say, rob Peter to pay Paul with what we have available in our budgets, how do you make this work? That's why I said the facilities, they're good, but sometimes the money and the efforts that are spent on a huge improved facilities can go toward that mental help for your player and even coaching staff and other little things that can offset that. And I know that bigger is always better, but you want updated facilities without breaking the bank, if you would. Like, for the life of me, I don't understand why schools in the South, more particularly, have dome stadiums that can be used for multi-purpose, such as graduation. I don't understand that.
Why they don't?
Why they don't, right.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is because a lot of schools think that is a part of their home field advantage by playing outdoors, playing in the heat. If you're bringing a team from up north, the weather is typically not that bad where you need a dome stadium. I think some of the dome stadiums, if you think, became more prevalent on the NFL side because their season sometimes goes over into January. So I think that's why that became commonplace for the, say Dallas, Atlanta, Houston, different things like that. But I think for the most part, it's a financial issue, but at the same time, it's a home field advantage for some teams to play outdoors down south.
But but I understand that. But if we're talking about budgets and stretching our dollar, right? Because if we're going to talk about graduation, it's always going to be a big event. And like for the case of Prairie View, you have sometimes 2 or 3 graduations because of the size of the facilities available on the campus, right? Unless you go for off campus, which defeats the purpose, at least from a collegiate aspect, of graduating from college.
Yeah.
So you're going to the stadiums that we're building, and does it make sense, in your opinion, to spend $60 million on a stadium that's only going to be used 4 or 5 times a year?
Well, then the question is going to be, you building a quote-unquote dome for graduation, how many graduations you going to have per year that will need to be used by that many people? But the other thing is also, too, the cost of the lighting, just say, I forget what the numbers was, but I remember a few years back they talked about the cost to host a game at the Superdome, how much it costs just to turn on the lights for 5 hours, at a minimum 5 hours. So, but, you get into that, then the upkeep, how many events you going to have? Are you going to rent it out for high school games? The cost of opening the dome for a high school game, is it going to be beneficial in terms of the amount of people that you have? So it's a lot of stuff that goes in, and it don't have to be the biggest dome, because if we played at North Dakota State, their dome is not very big, but it's accommodating to them because they need it for the cold weather games. But like I say, it is so tight on the sidelines that we barely have room on our benches. I mean, from the sideline to the bench may have been 7 or 8 yards, where at most places it's going to be 15 or 20 yards.
Once again, that's home field advantage.
Yeah.
That's home field advantage. And I'm thinking now, people might think I'm crazy. A 12,000 seat stadium is perfect to me. With a roof, it would be, icing on the cake. But if you like, even the size of Prairie is 15,000. Keep it at a dome level. That way, heat games. You could even, if you wanted to, play your games even earlier, because I know they play the games in September later due to the heat index and all that kind of things. I mean, and of course, multi-uses, concerts, or whatever you have, large events, conventions on that campus dome to get your bang for your buck.
Yeah, like I say, it makes some sense, but at the end of the day, you got to look at the offset of cost for operation purposes.
Well, and especially when you look at these guys talking about now, some schools talking about trying to get an indoor facility for practice and multi-purpose practice.
Yeah.
I mean, is there a difference?
Yeah, because if you go to some of the indoor practice facilities, they almost look like the park down. You know where McGregor Park is? Have you been to the park area where they play basketball down there? So some of the indoor practice facilities are going to that model where they're not totally enclosed. Some of them only go 80 yards, some of them 120, like a regulation field size, but it's not very much room on the side. It's not very high, and you can see, like if you're on the field, you can see outside. It's more like a fencing around it as opposed to a solid construction around. So you can go in there when it's raining. You can go in there when it's cold, but you still gonna feel the cold weather. So if you play an outdoor game, you're not totally. But it's really to get out of the lightning. And a lot of people, they start their practices at their indoor facility and eventually go to the grass or the turf or wherever else they practice, depending on the weather outside. So, but that indoor facility does not cost very much in the big scheme, because all you're doing is paying for the A-frame that goes over the top of the field and metal roofing. So you're not when they first started building the facilities where it was totally enclosed, you can't see out. Some of them even had a bubble, the old bubble facility. It's a different ball game than what they're doing now, especially on the high school level in terms of facilities.
Okay. So do you see that one day being something with some schools that'll be coming behind with new facilities start looking toward, or are they going to stick with what they know?
Now, I heard that Southern was getting one similar to that. I heard that Grambling was getting one, but theirs was not going to be a 100-yard facility. I don't know what Jackson was doing. I know they had been talking about getting a dome stadium, but I don't think the state of Mississippi is going to ever let that happen. It was one other school in the conference. I want to say it may have been Alabama State that at one time was talking about getting an indoor facility along those lines. But like I say, you know, they talk about one thing and they're, you know, it's like the church that raised funds for the windows, but you know, it's 10 years and we still collecting money for the windows.
Hey man, it's time, and it's all about time.
Yeah.
We talked with Coach Northern, who's apparently mad at his church because they ain't got no new windows yet. But it's all good. Coach, you got any thoughts for this weekend's matchups, man? As we get ready to wrap up this session.
Man, I'm looking forward to watching some games. You know, the State Fair Classics are always going to be there. It's going to be heated, I think. The Texas Southern game is the game that I'm probably going to say is going to be intriguing, and probably it's not going to surprise me at all if Texas Southern win that game. But every time I say that, they let me down. So I'm like I say, I'm gonna pull for Texas Southern. I'm gonna pull for Coach Dish, even though I know Coach Taylor as well. But I just think with Texas Southern playing at home, not turning the ball over, I think that's going to be the game that's going to make some people say, you know, it's going to open some eyes, I think.
Yes, sir. I'm in agreement with you on that. I actually picked them to win. I don't know if I had shared this with you, man. Me and a couple of my buddies, we got us a swag fantasy football league, man.
But you know what? I've never been into fantasy football at all, and I know, I mean, I work with guys that, I mean, they almost didn't want to work on Sunday because they wanted to see how many points they was going to get from this league, or they were a big fan of this NFL team. I've never been a big NFL person, I never grew up rooting for the Saints, Cowboys, or whatever because the Saints wasn't good when I was growing up. So it's just, and then once I got into collegiate coaching at Grambling, you could work on Sundays if you wanted to. So I would use Sunday as a work day to get ahead for the following week. So, and even at Prairie View, Sunday was a work day for us. But like I said, I know some guys that, I mean, it's almost like the work day was scheduled around NFL football as opposed to because we didn't work on Monday. So, like I say, it's different though. But I've never been into fantasy football. Don't understand it, and like I say, never tried to understand it. I know my son is involved in it, but I've never been involved in that. So I really, I think it's fun for some people. But from what I hear, it makes you root for teams that, like I say, you might be a Texas fan, but if you have a guy for the Bengals on your fantasy team, you end up cheering for that guy instead of for your team. So I don't know.
It's a very smart way to get people involved in the product, which is the NFL, and spending money because some of these leagues cost money. But ours is based on that formula of picking your teams from each players from each team within the conference, and you just kind of keep a track. That way, you get a little bit more in depth of other teams other than who we are associated or attached to. So it's just something that we're doing. And right now, I'm in third out of 3, but I'm gonna keep on fight.
Hey,
laugh at me on that though.
That's a great way of saying you in last place. I'm in third out of 3. I'm gonna have to use that. Third place don't sound so bad.
Yeah, it don't sound bad. It's like my pop used to tease me. He said, "Man, second place ain't nothing but the first loser."
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. I said I always remember that. But look, we're looking forward to it, man. Looking forward, and let me say, sir, congratulate you and commend you on your play call past weekend, man. The old coaching come out of you.
Yeah, man. I'm trying. I had to, and it was sort of funny because I could not hear my partner at times during the game through the headset, so it may sound like I'm talking over somebody. But at the end of the day, I like sitting up there talking ball. And the funny thing about it, because of where we're broadcasting, you get a lot of people around asking questions, or you can hear their comments about the game, which is even funnier. You got some people around you that's talking ball too. So I enjoy it at the end of the day.
Yeah. Look, I'm gonna tell you, sometimes as long as we've done this, them folks will try to ease up to you while you're in the middle of a broadcast. Talking about, hey, hey man, I'm working right now. I talk to you. But it's all fun, and the people enjoy it, and you guys are doing a great job, man. Looking forward to another great call this weekend, man.
All righty.
All right. He is Coach Northern, our football guru expert from the Open Mic. I am the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. Don't forget you can follow me on Twitter X at the Mike Prince Show. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. Don't forget to visit our 24-hour stream on the website, obnradio.com. And until the next time, you guys be blessed, and we'll see you on the other side.